My name is Margaret Thorne. I am 48 years old. I died at 9:47 in the evening on the third Saturday of October, and the last thing I saw before the darkness took me was the crystal chandelier in the ballroom of the Boston Public Library swaying like a pendulum counting down to nothing. The last thing I felt was the marble floor rising to meet my shoulder. The last thing I heard was Julian screaming my name, or so I thought. I would later learn that what I heard was not grief. It was the opening note of a performance he had been rehearsing for months. I woke up to the sound of my husband's laughter. Not the warm laughter I had known for 23 years. Not the laughter that used to fill our kitchen on Sunday mornings when he burned the pancakes and pretended it was intentional. This was a different sound. Sharper. Lighter. The laughter of a man who had just set down a burden he no longer wished to carry. I was cold. That was the first sensation. A cold so deep it felt like being wrapped in wet silk. I tried to open my eyes, but my lids were heavy, as if someone had sewn weights into them. I tried to move my fingers, and for a moment I believed I had failed, that I was paralyzed, that the stroke the paramedics had feared had finally claimed me. Then I felt my right thumb twitch against my thigh. I was not paralyzed. I was simply not yet alive enough to move. The room smelled of disinfectant and something else. Something metallic and final. I knew that smell. My father had been a mortician in Providence for 40 years. I had played hide and seek among the caskets as a child. I knew the smell of a room where death was inventory. I was in a morgue, and my husband was laughing. I still cannot believe it happened at the Gala, a woman's voice said. Sloane. I knew her voice the way you know a sound that does not belong in your house. She was Julian's junior partner at the firm. 34 years old. Brilliant with steel and glass. Terrible with boundaries. She literally collapsed on stage. During your speech. The irony is almost poetic. Do not use that word, Julian said. But he was still smiling. I could hear it in his voice. Maggie hated poetry. She said it was just lying with line breaks. She hated a lot of things, including me. She did not hate you. She pitied you. There is a difference. Sloane laughed. It was a single note like a chime. Well, she does not pity anyone now. I lay on the steel table and listened to them discuss my death the way they might discuss a stock portfolio. I was covered by a sheet, not a body bag, a thin white hospital sheet that did nothing to stop the cold. My arms were at my sides. My feet were bare. I could feel the metal through the fabric of the gown they had dressed me in. I tried to open my eyes again. This time they opened. Just a slit. Just enough to see the fluorescent light above me, diffuse through the white cotton into a pale gray glow. I did not breathe. Not because I could not, but because I was afraid that if I did, they would hear me. And if they heard me, they would stop talking. And I needed to hear what they were saying. I needed it more than I needed air. The insurance adjuster called me this morning, Julian said. His voice had shifted into the tone he used for business. The tone he had used when we bought the house in Brookline. When we negotiated Sophie's tuition. When we decided where to spend Thanksgiving. Practical. Measured. Devoid of the tremor I had expected from a man who had lost his wife 12 hours ago. The policy pays out in 72 hours if the death is ruled natural causes, which it will be. Cardiac arrest. No autopsy required. And the house? Sloane asked. Already listed. I spoke with Helena at Compass yesterday. She thinks we can get $1.4 million. Cash buyer probably. Developer. We. You know what I mean. Doi. Sloane's voice dropped. Not in volume. In temperature. Because I have been sleeping in a hotel for 6 months, Julian. I have been eating room service and pretending I do not exist. I think I deserve to know if we means what it used to mean. There was a pause. I heard footsteps. Julian moving closer to the table. To me. I closed my eyes. I slowed my breathing to nothing. I became the dead thing they believed me to be. It means, Julian said, and I felt his breath near my face, that in 3 days Margaret Thorne will be ashes, and in 30 days you and I will be on a plane to Lisbon, with new names and an account in the Caymans that she never knew existed. You opened the account? 2 years ago, when she started asking about the firm's taxes. I moved $240,000 into a shell company. She never noticed. She was too busy saving the world one charity dinner at a time. And Sophie is 19. She will survive. She will cry. She will go to therapy. And in 2 years she will thank me for the trust fund. You are a terrible father. I am a practical man. There is a difference. They laughed together. The sound echoed off the tile walls of the morgue. I lay beneath the sheet and felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart. My heart was beating now, slow and furious. A caged animal waking from hibernation. What cracked was the last illusion I had carried into that room. The illusion that Julian Thorne had ever loved me. He had loved my connections. My father's money. My ability to host dinners where architects and city councilors shook hands. He had loved the life I built around him. But he had never loved the woman who built it. I heard them kiss. I heard the rustle of fabric. I heard Sloane whisper something I could not make out. And then I heard the door open. The light from the hallway cut across the sheet over my face. I saw their shadows merge and separate. Wait, Sloane said. Should we not say something? A prayer. Margaret did not believe in God. She believed in receipts. And I have every receipt she ever wanted. The door closed. The light vanished. I was alone in the dark with the dead. I did not move for 10 minutes. I counted the seconds by the ticking of a clock somewhere in the room. A wall clock. Cheap. The kind they buy in bulk for government buildings. I counted 600 ticks. Then I sat up. The sheet fell from my face. The room was small. White tile. 3 steel tables. I was on the middle one. The other 2 were empty. The walls were lined with drawers. The air was 55 degrees. I could see my breath. I swung my legs over the side of the table. My feet touched the floor. It was wet. Someone had mopped recently. I stood. My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the table and held on until the room stopped spinning. I was wearing a thin blue hospital gown. My gala dress was gone. My jewelry was gone. My shoes were gone. I had nothing. Not even dignity. I looked at the door. It had a small square window. Through it I could see a hallway. Empty. Fluorescent lights buzzing. I took a step. Then another. My bare feet slapped against the wet tile. The sound was enormous. I stopped. I listened. Nothing. I reached the door. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. The hallway stretched left and right. To the left, a sign pointed toward the elevator. To the right, a sign pointed toward the loading dock. I turned right. I did not know why. Instinct. The part of the brain that knows how to run before the thinking part knows what from. I made it 10 feet before I heard footsteps behind me. I froze. I did not turn around. I simply stopped moving. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice. Young. Male. Terrified. Mom. I turned. He was 25, maybe 26. Dark skin. A name tag that read Carlos Rivera. Morgue attendant. He was holding a mop. He looked at me the way you look at a ghost. His mouth was open. His eyes were wide. You are supposed to be dead, he said. I said. My voice sounded like gravel. Like I had swallowed the dust of my own grave. I changed my mind. He did not scream. He did not run. He set the mop against the wall and took a step toward me. He was shaking. But he did not run. I need you to sit down, he said. Please. You are in shock. Your body temperature is too low. You need a blanket. You need a doctor. I need a phone, I said. Ma'am, you need an ambulance. I need a phone. And I need you to not tell anyone I am alive. Not yet. He stared at me. I stared back. I did not have the strength to persuade him. I did not have money to bribe him. I had only the look in my eyes. The look of a woman who has just been murdered by words and needs 48 hours to bleed in private. Please, I said. My husband thinks I am dead. And if he finds out I am not, he will finish the job. Carlos Rivera looked at me for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and handed me his phone. It was an old Android. Crack screen. But it worked. 2 hours, he said. I am off shift in 2 hours. If you are still here, I am calling the police. And the doctors. And probably a priest. 2 hours is enough, I said. I called my sister. Vera Castellanos answered on the third ring. She was 46. She was a family law attorney in Cambridge. She had never liked Julian. She had called him the actor at our wedding. She had been right. Vera, I said. Silence. Then, Maggie, I need you to come to Massachusetts General. Basement level. Morgue B. Do not tell anyone. Do not call Julian. Do not breathe a word. Maggie, you are dead. Julian called me. He was crying. He said you died at the gala. Julian is a very good liar. And I am a very bad corpse. Come now. I hung up. I sat on the floor of the morgue hallway with my back against the wall and waited. Carlos brought me a blanket. He brought me coffee in a styrofoam cup. He did not ask questions. He simply sat with me, 10 feet away, as if guarding a miracle he did not understand. Vera arrived in 41 minutes. She wore a black coat over pajamas. Her hair was wild. Her eyes were red. She stopped at the end of the hallway and looked at me. Then she ran. She dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around me. She was crying. I was not. I had no tears left. They had frozen in the morgue. What happened? She whispered. I heard them, I said. Julian and Sloane. They were in the morgue. They thought I was dead. They divided my life between them like a pizza. I will kill him. No. You will help me disappear. She pulled back. She looked at my face. She saw something there. Something she had not seen since we were children, and I decided to climb the oak tree in our backyard despite our mother's warnings. Determination. Not anger. Anger is hot. This was cold. This was settled. What do you need? She asked. 48 hours. A place to hide. And everything you can find about Julian's finances. The Cayman's account. The house listing. The insurance claim. I want to know what he ate for breakfast on the morning I died. Maggie, you are not thinking clearly. You have been through a trauma. You need a hospital. You need police. I need justice, I said. And justice does not wear a badge. It wears patience. Vera drove me to her apartment in Somerville. It was small, cluttered with case files and takeout containers. She gave me clothes, sweatpants, a wool sweater that smelled like her cedar closet. She made tea. I sat at her kitchen table and stared at the wall. Tell me everything, she said. I told her. The gala, the speech, the way Julian had looked at me from the front row when I stumbled on the stairs. Not with concern, with calculation. The paramedics, the ambulance, the darkness, and then the waking, the laughter, the Cayman's account, the ashes in 3 days, Lisbon in 30. Vera took notes. She did not interrupt. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me. The insurance claim is fraud, she said. If he files it while you are alive, it is a felony. But we need proof he knew you were alive. Or proof he filed in bad faith. He does not know I am alive. That is the point. Then we let him file. And then we appear. Like Lazarus. With a lawyer. No. Maggie. No. I do not want him in prison. I do not want him fined. I want him to feel what I felt in that morgue. I want him to believe he has lost everything. And then I want him to realize that the only thing he ever truly lost was the one thing he never valued. Me. Vera was quiet for a long time. Then she opened her laptop. The house is not listed yet, she said. But Helena from Compass has a coming soon page. Pre-market. Julian signed the paperwork yesterday, before you were even cold. The insurance? He filed the claim online at 2 this morning. I have a friend at the company. She says it is flagged for expedited review. He checked the box for no autopsy requested. And Sophie. Vera's face changed. He told her you died peacefully. In your sleep. He did not mention the gala. He told her not to come home. That the funeral would be small. That you would have wanted cremation. I closed my eyes. Sophie. My daughter. 19 years old. Studying biology at Oberlin. She had texted me the morning of the gala. Good luck tonight, Mom. Break a leg. Not literally. I had sent her back a heart emoji. And now her father was telling her not to come to my funeral. I need to call her, I said. Not yet. If Julian has access to her phone records. He does not. You do not know that. She was right. I did not know anything anymore. The man I had slept beside for 23 years was a stranger. And strangers were capable of anything. 48 hours, I said. Then I call her. Vera nodded. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her fingers were warm. Mine were still cold. I wondered if they would ever be warm again. I spent the next day in Vera's apartment, eating soup and watching the shadows move across the ceiling. Vera went to work. She pretended to be normal. She filed motions. She answered emails. And in between, she dug into Julian's life. She came home at 7 that evening with a file. Thick. Manila. The kind she used for divorce cases. He is worse than you think, she said. How much worse? The Cayman's account is real. 240,000. But that is not all. He took a home equity line of credit against your house 6 months ago. 300,000. He told you it was for the firm's expansion. He spent it on Sloan. Trips. Jewelry. A condo in South End. I looked at the papers. Numbers. Just numbers. But numbers were Julian's native language. He had taught me early in our marriage that architecture was just mathematics with ambition. I had believed him. I had believed that if the columns were straight and the load-bearing walls were true, the marriage would stand. I had not checked the foundation. What about the firm? I asked. He is bankrupt. Has been for 18 months. The Lisbon plan is not a retirement. It is an escape. He owes $2 million to creditors. The house sale and the insurance payout were his only way out. Without your death, he is ruined. I set the papers down. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not grief. A strange hollow clarity. Like the moment after a storm when the sky is too blue and the air is too still. He needed me to die, I said. It was not a question. Yes. And Sloan. She knows. She has known for months. She helped him hide the debt. She is not a lover, Maggie. She is an accomplice. I stood up. I walked to the window. Outside, Boston was going about its business. People were walking dogs, buying groceries, living lives that had not been shattered in a morgue. I pressed my palm against the glass. It was cold, but not as cold as the steel table. I need a phone, I said. A burner. Untraceable. Maggie. And I need you to find out when the cremation is scheduled. Why? Because I want to attend my own funeral. Vera stared at me. Then she laughed. It was a broken sound, but it was real. You are insane. I am alive. For the first time in 23 years I am alive. And I intend to stay that way. She bought me the phone the next morning. A cheap flip phone from a convenience store in Dorchester. Cash. No contract. I sat in Vera's apartment and held it in my hands. It was light. Plastic. Disposable. Like the life Julian had tried to throw away. The cremation was scheduled for Thursday morning. 2 days away. Julian had chosen the cheapest option. No service. No viewing. Direct cremation. Ashes in a cardboard box. He was not even going to buy me an urn. I called the funeral home at noon. I used my best administrative voice. The voice I used when organizing galas and wrangling donors. This is Margaret Thorne. I believe my husband made arrangements for my cremation. The woman on the other end paused. I am sorry. Could you repeat that? Margaret Thorne. Julian Thorne's wife. I wanted to confirm the time and ask if it is too late to add a viewing. I have family flying in. There was a long silence. Then the woman said very carefully, Ma'am, I think there may be some confusion. Margaret Thorne is deceased. I know. I am her sister.
Vera Castellanos.
I am handling the details. Oh, I see. Yes. The cremation is Thursday at 10. And the ashes? They will be available for pickup after 2. Mr. Thorne requested that we hold them until he returns from a business trip. Of course he did. Thank you. I hung up. I looked at Vera. He is not even staying for the ashes, I said. Where is he going? Business trip. Which means Sloan. Which means they are already packing. Vera checked Julian's calendar. She had access. She had helped him set up the firm's legal framework years ago, before she realized what he was. He has a flight to Miami on Friday. One way. First class. And from Miami? Lisbon. Saturday. I sat on Vera's couch and looked at the flip phone. I had not turned it on since I bought it. I had not called anyone. I had been waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for Julian to believe he had one. Now he believed it. The cremation was scheduled. The flight was booked. The money was moving. He was 3 days away from freedom. I opened the phone. I dialed a number from memory. Julian's cell. The number I had called 1,000 times. To ask if he needed milk. To tell him Sophie had made the dean's list. To say good night. It rang 3 times. Then he answered. Julian Thorne. I said nothing. I simply held the phone to my ear and listened to him breathe. Hello, he said. Is anyone there? Silence. Look, if this is a telemarketer, I am hanging up. Silence. I heard him exhale. A sharp, annoyed sound. Then the line went dead. I called back. He answered on the first ring. Who is this? His voice was different now. Tense. How did you get this number? Silence. I am calling the police. I hung up. I turned off the phone. I looked at Vera. What did that accomplish? She asked. Fear, I said. Fear is a seed. It grows in the dark. And Julian Thorne just planted a forest. She did not understand. Not yet. But she would. That night I did not sleep. I sat by Vera's window and watched the city. At 3 a.m, I turned on the flip phone again. I sent Julian a text. 3 words. The ashes wait. I turned off the phone. I went to bed. I dreamed of steel tables and white sheets. I dreamed of laughter that sounded like breaking glass. The next morning Vera came home early. She had dark circles under her eyes. He called the funeral home. 4 times. He demanded to know if anyone had asked about the ashes. He called the hospital. He asked if there had been any irregularities with the body. He is panicking. Good. Maggie, this is dangerous. If he realizes you are alive. He will not. He is not rational. He is guilty. And guilty men see ghosts in every shadow. What is the end game? You cannot hide forever. I do not need forever. I need 3 days. And then, I looked at her. And then I attend my own funeral. Thursday arrived like a letter you do not want to open. Vera drove me to the funeral home at 9 in the morning. I wore a black wig she had bought at a costume shop, sunglasses, a coat with a collar that hid my face. I looked like a mourner, which was fitting. I was mourning myself. We parked across the street. The funeral home was a brick building with white pillars. Suburban, quiet, the kind of place where nothing ever happened except the inevitable. At 9:45, a black sedan pulled up. Julian stepped out. He wore a charcoal suit, notie, sunglasses. Sloane was not with him. He had come alone. He looked at the building the way a man looks at a dentist's office. Necessary, unpleasant, best gotten over with quickly. He went inside. I waited 10 minutes. Then I followed. The lobby was empty. A funeral director sat behind a desk. He looked up as I entered. May I help you? I am here for the Thorne cremation. Are you family? I am Margaret's sister. He checked a clipboard. I am sorry. Mr. Thorne requested a private. I know what he requested. I also know that Massachusetts law requires next of kin to be notified of cremation procedures. I was not notified. Would you like me to call my attorney? He blinked. He was 24. An intern. He did not want trouble. Of course. Right this way. He led me down a hallway. The walls were lined with photographs of urns. Marble. Bronze. Biodegradable. I wondered which one Julian would have chosen for me. Probably the cardboard box. We stopped at a door. The viewing room is through here. Mr. Thorne is inside. Thank you. I would like a moment alone. Of course. He left. I stood at the door. I could hear Julian inside. He was on the phone. His voice was low, agitated. I do not care what the doctor said. I want the ashes today. Not tomorrow. Today. I have a flight. Pause. Then find them. I paid for expedited service. Pause. No. No viewing. No service. Just the box. And a death certificate. I pushed the door open. He was standing by the window. His back was to me. The room was small. 2 chairs. A table with a vase of plastic flowers. No casket. He had not even bought me a casket. Julian, I said. He turned. I took off the sunglasses. I took off the wig. My hair was short. They had cut it in the hospital. I did not care. I wanted him to see my face. The face he had kissed goodbye that morning. The face he had laughed over in the morgue. He did not scream. He did not faint. He simply stared. The phone fell from his hand. It hit the carpet with a soft thud. You are dead, he said. I was. I saw you. In the morgue. You were dead. I heard you. In the morgue. You were laughing. He took a step back. His heel hit the wall. He had nowhere to go. Maggie, I can explain. You do not need to explain. I heard the explanation. 240,000 in the Caymans. The house sale. The flight to Lisbon. Sloane. I heard it all. It is not what you think. It is exactly what you think. You needed me to die. And when I did not cooperate, you decided to burn the evidence. Maggie, please. Please what? Please forgive you? Please forget? Please go back to being the dead wife who made your life so convenient. He slid down the wall. He sat on the floor. His charcoal suit wrinkled. His sunglasses fell from his pocket. He looked small. He looked old. He looked like a man who had built a castle on sand and was watching the tide come in. What are you going to do? He asked. Nothing. He looked up. Nothing. I am not going to call the police. I am not going to sue you. I am not going to tell Sophie what her father really is. Not yet. I am simply going to walk out of this room, and then I am going to live. The insurance. I have already called the insurance company. I told them I am alive. They were very interested to hear about your claim. Fraud investigators are tedious people. They ask so many questions. The house. Vera filed an injunction this morning. The sale is frozen. And since the home equity line was taken out without my signature, the bank is also asking questions. You will not see a penny from that house. Maggie, I have nothing. You have Sloane. He laughed. It was a wet, broken sound. Sloane left me. Yesterday. She said I was unstable. She said I was seeing things. She took the Cayman's money and ran. I looked at him. I felt nothing. Not triumph. Not pity. The hollow clarity again. The stillness after the storm. Then you have nothing, I said. Which is exactly what you tried to leave me with. I turned to the door. Maggie, wait. I stopped. I did not turn around. I loved you. Once. I did. I know, I said. Once is not enough. I walked out. I did not look back. I walked past the intern, who stared at me with his mouth open. I walked past the photographs of urns. I walked out into the October sunlight. Vera was waiting in the car. She rolled down the window. Well, she asked. Drive, I said. She drove. We did not speak for 10 minutes. Then my phone rang. Not the flip phone. My real phone. The one Vera had retrieved from the hospital. I looked at the screen. It was Sophie. I answered. Mom. Boy. Silence. Then sobbing. Dad told me you were dead. He told me not to come home. He said you wanted cremation. He said. I know what he said. I did not believe him. Not really. I was on a bus. I was coming anyway. I was halfway to Boston when Vera texted me. She said you were alive. She said not to tell Dad. I closed my eyes. The tears finally came. Hot. Painful. Necessary. Where are you now? I asked. South Station. Mom, are you really alive? I am really alive. And I am coming to get you. Vera turned the car around. We drove to South Station. Sophie was standing on the sidewalk. She wore a gray hoodie and jeans. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were swollen. She saw the car. She saw me. She ran. She threw herself into my arms. She was shaking. I held her. I held her the way I had held her when she was 3 and fell off her bicycle. The way I had held her when she was 12 and lost her first debate. The way I had held her the night before she left for college. I knew, she whispered into my shoulder. I knew he was lying. He sounded wrong. He sounded happy. I know. Are you okay? I am getting there. She pulled back. She looked at my face. She touched my cheek. You look different. I am different. Good different. I thought about the morgue, the steel table, the laughter, the ashes that Julian had not even bothered to put in an urn. Yes, I said. Good different. We drove back to Vera's apartment. Sophie sat in the back seat and held my hand. She did not let go. Not once. That evening, the 3 of us sat at Vera's kitchen table. We ordered Chinese food. We did not talk about Julian. We did not talk about Sloane. We talked about Sophie's classes, about Vera's new case, about the oak tree in our parents' backyard that had finally fallen in last winter's storm. And then Sophie said, "What are you going to do now?" I looked at my daughter, at my sister, at the small apartment that smelled like old books and jasmine tea. I am going to sell the house, I said. The real way. With a realtor. With a lawyer. With my name on the deed. And Julian? Julian is going to learn what it means to be erased. Not by fire. Not by fraud. By indifference. I am going to live well. I am going to live loudly, and he is going to watch from the sidelines he chose. That is it? Sophie asked. You are just going to let him go? No. I am going to let him stay, right where he is. In the wreckage of the life he tried to steal. Prison would be a mercy. Freedom is his punishment. Because now he knows that every shadow might be me. Every phone call might be my ghost. And every empty bed will remind him that he traded a wife for a lie and lost both. Vera raised her teacup to the dead who refused to stay buried. Sophie raised her water glass to my mother, who came back. I did not raise anything. I simply sat there and felt the warmth of the room seep into my bones. The cold of the morgue was still there. It would always be there. But now it had company. I am Margaret Thorne. I am 48 years old. I died on a Saturday and woke up on a Sunday. I learned that my husband was a thief, my marriage was a fiction, and my life was a ledger he had already closed. And then I learned something else. I learned that the only thing more powerful than a woman who knows how to love is a woman who knows how to stay alive. Julian is in Boston somewhere. Broke. Alone. Waiting for a flight he will never take. Sloane is in Lisbon with $240,000 and a man she will never trust. And I am here, in a small apartment in Somerville, with my sister, with my daughter, with a future I did not plan but earned. I did not burn him. I did not bury him. I simply walked away and left him in the dark he chose. And that, I have learned, is the only revenge that lasts. Was I wrong to let him believe I was a ghost? Or was the only way to kill a liar to let him drown in his own lies?